And he took a bullet for a whole generation. And that was wrong. And I don't really know how he was able to do what he did because of the amount of pressure that was put on him, the negativism that was said about him.
From the toast of San Francisco to the target of a federal indictment. Tonight, Barry Bonds is facing charges that could send him to prison. Good evening. The all-time home run king, under suspicion for steroid use for years, is now under indictment for lying about it. 5 counts for perjury and obstruction of justice.
Well, he was the focal point for the steroid generation. And he was the one where all of the hate was directed. And I think it was more of his relationship, his unique relationship, which wasn't always good with the media, that perhaps opened doors for a lot of the criticism. But I just don't think it was right that he, and now what has happened where other people have become indicted with the Mitchell report, you know, people are broadening their hatred towards this generation, which I think, again, is unfair. But, you know, in regards to Bonds, I think it was unfair. What happened to him was unfair.
Ken, Peter McGowan, Giants president and managing general partner, released a brief statement just a few hours ago. He says the Mitchell report clearly demonstrates the pervasiveness of the problem, and he adds, and I quote here, "The Giants accept our fair share of responsibility."
Good evening. More on Barry Bonds. You get a glimpse of the battle that's coming when you hear Barry Bonds' attorney, Michael Raines. Today, Raines said, "We should all worry about a Justice Department that doesn't know if waterboarding is torture," and questioned whether the Bonds case is prosecution or persecution. I spoke with writer Mark Fainaru-Wada, who co-wrote the book Game of Shadows. In that book, the detailed use of steroids in baseball, and Bonds' case in particular, was documented. I asked Fainaru-Wada if he thought Bonds would ever spend a day in jail as a result of the perjury charges, and Fainaru-Wada said this case has been filled with so many twists and turns, it's impossible to know what's next.
We were very fortunate to have somebody like Mark, because Mark, his whole background was sports. And Lance is terrific. Lance has been an investigative reporter at both the Examiner and the Chronicle, and before that the Oakland Tribune for years. But Mark knew sports. He knew some of the places to look that Lance might not have. Lance was very experienced with courts and grand juries and things like that. So it was a perfect blend of reporters on the story. And they're both very aggressive and very thorough.
Throughout this whole saga, we had stories about the Balco situation, and they were the definitive stories, the groundbreaking ones, the first anyone saw of them. And that was part of our deal. You know, we were at the forefront of that, thanks to Mark Fainaru-Wada and Lance Williams. So there was always that. And, you know, sometimes you felt as a writer, you know, to get too excited about what he was doing, you're kind of going against the grain a little bit.
You know, Balco, the steroid issue, it's not fun. It kind of goes against the grain of what we were there to do, which is just, you know, we're the, somebody once wrote, we're the toy department of you know, the world. I mean, we're there just to, for fun.
The question, of course, that's open now is how much of this was aided by performance-enhancing substances, and the question I submit will never be answered is, in the environment in which that was occurring, when we now understand that others probably were, and we don't know how many others probably were, and to what extent anything that these guys did may have actually improved their play anyway, we may never know the answer to that. But I think that there has been a pretty clear delineation between Bonds the person and Bonds, the guy wearing number 25 in the batter's box.
So, I mean, is it tainted? Yeah, I guess so. You know, would he have gotten there without the steroids? I mean, again, that's obviously a whole nother conversation. I mean, I blame the players, and I blame Bud Selig, and I blame the custodians of the game and the guardians of the game for turning this into such an unfathomable mess that we can't really make heads or tails of it, and there are all these shades of gray.
I don't buy those numbers, and I never bought watching him hit the home runs that what I was watching was real. But it didn't stop me from going to the TV every time the guy was up, because it's exciting as heck to watch. I mean, he really is. I mean, he's the one guy you want to watch play.
A large portion of the public doesn't believe this is legitimate. So how do we address that and not go too far onto the cheerleading side while still recognizing it is an achievement? Baseball recognizes it. At least for now, baseball recognizes it. So we have to recognize it as well. So it was a real challenge to strike that balance.
Every time he came to bat, 40,000 people stood up and cheered. They wanted to see this record. It was a baseball record is what it was. Forget how it may have happened. Forget the off-the-field activities. This was a guy hitting home run after home run, majestic home run.